Today's lesson is going to be how to create this Hoodeanie. It is a hood cross a beanie. And I will show you two different ways to have ties. We have the plaited ties, and I'll also show you how to attach a button with a button tab as well. And I'll just spin Mrs. Foamy around so you can see what it looks like. You can also use this hood to attach to the scarf to make the skootie. So this is a different version. It is rounded at the top rather than pointy. And also Mrs. Foamy's head is a bit smaller than mine, actually a lot smaller than mine, so this might look a little bit too big for her. But it fits me perfectly, and you can adjust this to any size you like. I'll show you how to do this in the video as well. So I hope you guys really enjoy this video. Thank you for watching. So let's get started. First of all, we want to make a chain that goes from the top of our head, so the highest point of our head, down the back, and then finish it where your shoulders are. So if this was to neck, and say our shoulders would be about here somewhere. So it's got to be from here up to there, and that was my dog yawning if you heard it. She's woken up. So make your chain as long as you need it. So what I've done here is place the crochet hook on top of the head, so that will give us the highest point, and then I've just let it hang down at the back, and then it's down to the shoulders. Now this is a little bit longer because Mrs. Foamy's head is smaller than mine, so I need mine to be a bit longer. And also, once we've finished our Hoodeanie, we can add extra rows on the bottom. So if it's made it too short, it's perfectly fine. We can just add a few rows on the bottom, and it actually will look really nice if we need to add a few rows. I'm using 2 strands of yarn, and which are 8 ply, each 8 ply, and a 6.5mm hook, which is also a K size. And I'm going to be using the half double crochet stitch, so I want to go into the second chain from my hook. We do not count the one on our hook. This is number 1 and this is number 2. So yarning over with both strands, going into the loop, into our chain stitch, yarning over both strands, pulling up a loop, yarning over and pulling through all 3. And we want to work 1 stitch in every chain across. Now you can use different stitches to make this. You could use a single crochet. I'm using the half double crochet, or you could use a double crochet. It's completely up to you. I seem to, and if you've been watching my videos, seem to love this half double crochet stitch. I just like the effect that it gives. So we just need to crochet all the way to the end of our chain. When we get up to the last chain stitch, we want to put 6 stitches into that last chain. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we want to work down the other side of the chain, but instead of going into the chain, this will make it have like really big gaps, and I don't like that look. We are going to work in between the stitches. So here's our stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go between the very first one we did here and then the next one. We want to work our stitch into there. and then between the next stitch, so we went in there, between the next one. And this will give it a nice solid finish, and we won't have gaps here. Because watch what happens when I just go through the chain. I'll just do 3 stitches through the chain. See how we've got those holes there? And here we don't. Yeah, I don't like that look. I think it looks funny, and you can tell where you've gone into the chain, where this way you can't really tell that you started there. So going in between the next stitch, in between the next one, and just repeat this all the way to the end. So I'm coming up to the end here. I've got that one, and then there as well. So I'm just going to go into those stitches. And it's only this row that we work in between the stitches. Our next row we'll just work as normal. Now this is the bottom of our beanie, or our Hoodeanie, and then this is the top. So this is where the back of your head is. This is where that will be, up that way. So what we want to do now is, if you're using the half double crochet stitch, you're going to chain up 2. If you're using the single crochet, you'll chain up 1. And if you're using a double crochet, you'll chain up 3. So depending on what stitch you chose, that's what you do there. And now we're going to half double crochet, or whichever stitch you have chosen, you'll use that stitch throughout this pattern. We're going to go into the second stitch. This is classed as our first one here. This is our first stitch, our chaining. I'm going to be working into the back loops only. If you don't want to, go in and under the V. If you want to work in the back loops only, this is how we do it. So we wrap our yarn for our half double, going into the back loop only. So the V, it is the back section of the V. So yarning over, pulling up a loop, yarning over, pulling through all 3. Yarning over, going into that back V, and then completing your stitch. And we want to go along, and I'm going to join you when I get up to the end of this row. So now I'm up to where I did my 6 stitches into my last stitch, into my last chain. Remember how we did that on the previous row? Now what we want to do is, for the next 6 stitches, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, we just want to put 2 stitches in that same stitch. So we're going to increase in every stitch. An increase means 2 stitches in the 1 stitch. So I'm still working in my back loops, and I'm going to work 2 into those next 6 stitches. This yarn keeps getting caught. So working back loops only, get in there. There we go. We're just working 2 in those 6 stitches. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is our 6th stitch that we want to do our 2 stitches in. So we've increased that a lot there, and this will help us with the back of our Hoodeanie. So now we just want to work one stitch in each of the next stitches. So we're up to the end here, and if you're working through the back loops only, you want to work in that last stitch through the back loops only, and then work into your turning chain. Now it's really hard to see, but it's just here. This is just one of those annoying things in crochet. So putting in that stitch, chaining up 2, and this is going to be the bottom edge around your neck, and then we go up here to the top. So spinning around, we now want to work back across. So I've worked back across, and I'm up to the bit on the end here where we did all our increasing, and I'm going to crochet until I get to the top stitch. So when you look at it like that, it's the one that's up the top here. So we're just working across. And in this top one here, I want you to put 3 stitches into the same space. And then 1 in each of the next stitch until we get to the end. So I'm coming up to my last stitch, which is my turning chain, putting in my last stitch, and then chaining 2 and turning. Now every row from now on is going to be exactly the same. It's just going to be 1 stitch in every stitch, even on the end piece where we did all our increasing. So we go into our second stitch there because our chain counts as our first. We just keep going until our hood is big enough. And I will catch up with you when I've completed enough. So until then, happy crochet. So this is what I've got so far. I've just kept going until it's long enough. And Mrs. Foamy's head's smaller than mine, so this might look a little big on her. So what I'm going to do now is get a smaller hook. At the moment I'm using a 6.5mm or a K size hook. I'm going to drop down to a 5mm hook, which is a H size hook. And I'm just going to work 1 or 2 rows around here just to bring it in a little bit, because it is a little bit baggy on around my face. So I'll show you the back of it. Almost looks like a pixie kind of hat, doesn't it, with this little bit at the back here. I think it's looking rather cute. So I'm going to add a row around the face, and I'm actually going to add a row down the bottom here just to neaten off the edge. I mean, it's pretty good, but I'm just going to put one around the bottom there, and I'll also show you how to make this longer if it isn't long enough, if you haven't made enough chains.